Hey, welcome to episode 280 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman. Actually, tonight, I'm the speaker and the, the- I'm delivering an imperfect commencement address. An imperfect commencement address. In commencement is about the word commence means to begin, and in this commencement address is about beginnings. It's about like wherever we've been in life. Now is the time to begin. Now is the time when we're beginning to go into the next hour, the next day, the next year, the next decade, whatever of our lives. And to celebrate this beginning, I'm going to give an address, but we're an imperfect address. But first, this.
Today's guest, Jason Freeman.
Hey. Welcome back. How do I get a slide to work? Oh, wait there, I got it. Commencement marks the beginning, and beginnings are they've been extremely important in my life because as a young person, I just, at many points in my journey, I didn't like where I was at, and if I had stuck in that routine of feeling miserable my whole life through, that would have been my whole life, and it would have been not what I wanted. But I've been able to begin again and again to live a more expanded life. Has it been easy? No, it hasn't, and it probably hasn't been easy for you either. When we decide on new things to do new things in life, new opportunities arise, but new challenges also arise. And it can take we've got to be willing to commence a new chapter and not to retreat to the same old, even if the same old was painful and not what we wanted. Speaking of painful, for much of my life, I asked painful questions that sent me in unproductive directions. The thing is, when I was asking these painful questions, I didn't realize what I was doing. To me, I was just creating my life, and this was how my life was. Was a struggle. I didn't realize. I knew that some questions changed the direction a person went in life. Like if I was in Kansas City, Kansas, and I asked the question how to go to New York City, the answer would lead me northeast. Whereas if I was in Kansas City and I asked the question, how do I go to San Diego, the answer would lead me southwest. And in that example, it's very clear that I would see different things along the way and have different experiences. But in terms of the questions I was asking myself that were keeping me stuck in patterns of feeling bad about who I was, and patterns of feeling unproductive, and patterns of feeling unsuccessful, and patterns of thinking, oh, life is exhausting. Was clueless about what questions I was really asking. I wish back then I had the slide, which would have been kind of a cheat sheet, or it would have been a cheat sheet if I had paid attention. See, when I was born, I lost some oxygen, and as a result, have a disability. And for much of my life, I was asking these questions: why was I born with a disability? Why me? Why don't I talk like everyone else? How can I compensate for my my disability? And you know what? I was getting answer, answers to these questions, or whether I was sometimes making up answers, like the question, why did I lose oxygen at birth? Why did this freak thing happen? I mean, that question essentially has no answer. I could ask it my entire life, and the best I could say, oh, is maybe because of this, maybe because of that. But I can't go back to 1975 when I was born. I can never know exactly. So, so some disabling questions we ask ourselves have have no real answer. I guess, like the question, why me? I mean, who knows? Who knows? You keep asking that again, keep coming up with ideas, but at the end of the day, who knows? Why don't I talk like everyone else? Could keep going on and on, coming up with various ideas and how it's unfair, and then there's questions there's questions that send us in the wrong direction, that have more practical answers. Like, how do I compensate for my disability? I compensated for my di- disability for years by trying. I love adjusting my glasses when I'm on air, I guess. But anyway, I compensated for my disability for years by trying to pretend that I didn't have a speech impediment. And you may ask, Jason, how in the world could you pretend you didn't have a speech impediment? Every time you speak, it's there. Well, I did. I went 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 through life through my days not mentioning to anyone that I had a speech impediment, being offended when people asked if I had a speech impediment. And as you can imagine, this practice made it awkward for the people around me, which when I mean, it's natural for people to be curious, and when someone has a unique voice, people wonder how did you get it? What does it mean? Is it because you're intoxicated? Is it because you've had a stroke? And if I had just said to people when they were curious, hey, hey, I have this speech impediment because of a birth injury, it would have just allowed us to move on in the conversation. But because I was trying to hide it, it made things awkward, which affected the way I interacted with people, which is a real world consequence. Because, like, our interactions with people form a community, and if I was making them awkward by not being willing to talk about a core part of who I am that's present every time I speak, that's a big deal. And another way I was trying to compensate for my disability is I was trying to be perfect in every area of my life, or to pretend I was perfect. I was trying to get the best grades. I was trying to know all the answers. I was trying to I would were and sometimes I'm sure I wouldn't have made my mistakes, and and there's nothing wrong with trying to get good grades, but trying to pretend you're better than another person by being the one trying to get the best grades, or trying to compete. I was trying to compete with other people to compensate for my disability, and that competitive atmosphere that I had around me added more stress to my interactions. Sometimes I probably looked like I was being overly boastful, and that was kind of a turn off. So 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 by asking the question, how do I compensate for my disability, it was having huge real world effects on my life. And so I'll ask you to begin thinking, as we go on, what disempowering, what disabling questions are you asking yourself? And I would encourage you to explore the questions in the coming that question in the coming weeks, in the coming months, and maybe talk about the idea of asking disempowering questions with the people you're close to, and kind of explain the concept. You can use what I'm saying as an example if you want, but they might have some insight into the disempowering questions you're asking, which you might be blind to. I say this again, knowing I was blind to the disempowering questions I was asking myself for much of my life. But I wasn't blind to how the questions felt. As I asked these questions again and again, day after day, month after month, year after year, they made me miserable. My answers to these questions made me miserable, which basically was me making myself miserable. And I began thinking that my life would always be this way, that I would always be asking these questions that made me feel bad. Yeah, these are, I mean, these are all young pictures of me in, in junior high and high school, but, but I could have, if I could find them, I could have found me feeling miserable in college, me feeling miserable during my first job, me feeling miserable in grad school. So as I was saying, sometimes it takes the people around us to point out a broader perspective on our own life. Sometimes it takes the people around us to point out a broader perspective on our own life. And this can be challenging for us as individuals because if you're anything like me, you you like to think you know your own life. You like to think you know who you are. You like to think you know what you're capable of. But at least for me, I know I didn't. I thought I knew exactly n- not only who have been in the past and who I was in the present, but who I would be. I thought I could predict my own future. And that feeling, yes, it gave me a sense of power about thinking I knew my destiny, thinking I knew who I would become, thinking I knew who I would become, but it also was very limiting. But because it kept me in a small like box of my assumptions about myself, and more importantly to this discussion, the answers I was getting to the hidden questions are the questions hidden from my view that I kept asking over and over and over again. It was like I was putting these questions, these disempowering questions, into into Google each day, many times a day. Only Google was my mind, and my mind did not fail me. It definitely gave me answers over and over again. But they want the answers. They want the answers that brought me the level of joy I wanted, the level of success I wanted, the level I wanted to contribute to other people and to the world, but I was so stuck answering these questions in my mind. I couldn't contribute in the way I wanted. Luckily, luckily, a friend intervened. A friend intervened, and she didn't in the moment know that she was going to have a major impact on my life. I don't think. So what happened is I had moved to San Diego with a dream of becoming a professional speaker with a speech impediment, but I was still kind of dragging the speech impediment along with me, and I was still in my mind thinking how much easier it would be a professional speaker if I didn't have a speech impediment. And my friend turned to me and said, and Ina Lucas said, Jason, your voice is a gift. Jason, your voice is a gift. And here's Ina. Ina, if you're watching this, thank you. At some point, thank you from the bottom of my heart. That because your statement led me to ask a new question. Because she said my voice was a gift. So I started asking, how can I make my voice, my exact voice, and my exact disability into a gift? And I started answering that question again. Mine's all like Google. When we ask it something, they will find answers. And so I started asking, how can I make my voice, mm, my coordination differences, exactly who I am into a gift? And I started to get answers as I spoke to more audiences. As I started being more confident, sharing stories when I was talking one on one with friends in a group of friends, and eventually, as I started this podcast, when Ina said your voice is a gift, I had the idea of doing a podcast was the farthest. It was just not in my imagination yet. But the thing about empowering questions is that we don't have to know the answers right away. We don't even have to. So Ina probably said that to me, I would imagine, in 2010 or 2011. I didn't start this podcast until 2020. I didn't find the answer for a decade. And I'm still every day asking myself in various ways, how can I use exactly who I am as a gift? And I'm still coming up with new answers. So once you find, you discover, once you discover uh, the disempowering questions you've been asking them yourself, the exciting things is you can start creating empowering questions. And and I've been talking about big questions, like central to changing my life story, but sometimes the disempowering question we ask ourselves can be much smaller. For example, with this imperfect commencement address, I got started later with it later in the evening than I wanted to, and I'm recording later than I had originally planned. And I could keep asking myself, why am I so tired right now since it's later, or else on one hand, I could ask myself, why am I so tired? On the other hand, I could ask myself, how can I make this the best presentation yet? Why am I so tired? Versus, how can I make this the best presentation yet? And I guess you got an extreme close up of my hand now. But you can see, why am I so tired? The answers I get from asking my mind that are going to be far different than the answers I get from how can I make this into the best presentation yet. Like why am I so tired? The question itself is heavy and it starts making me sleepy versus how can I make this the best presentation yet? That makes me sit up straight and start really getting more energy into my voice and I start thinking of ways to make this into the best presentation yet. Yes, yes, the questions we ask ourselves about ourselves each and every day, that they have extraordinary power when we seek answers to them, and they can either take us towards New York City or take us towards San Diego. And if we're asking a question aligned with where we want to go, everything's working well. But if we're asking a question, if we're repeatedly asking a question, how do I get to New York City? When in fact, what we really want is to, to go to San Diego, we have a problem. And you might be like, come on, Jason, I would never ask myself a question in the opposite direction as I wanted to go. If that's true, I'm really happy for you, and you are far, much farther along than I am, but I know for me, I ask myself all kinds of hidden disempowering questions. Another one I asked, which I alluded to earlier, is how can I be perfect to compensate for my disability? All of us have, each of us have different reasons for wanting to be perfect, for wanting to be a perfectionist. And if you're not a perfectionist and listening to this, congratulations again, you're much farther along than me. But the turnaround to how can I be perfect, or the not the turnaround, but the more effective question for me to how I want to how can I be perfect, the more effective question beyond that question was how can I do my imperfect best? And I use that question each and every day. And I'm using it right now as I'm doing my imperfect best and adjusting my glasses repeatedly and imperfectly again and again. And that question again came to me when I didn't expect it. I was on a branding retreat. I was on a retreat and trying to figure out what my brand with the leader and so I was just thinking of marketing basically and explaining who I was to potential customers. In the leader, there were a few of us in the room, and somehow we bantered things back and forth, and we said, "Hey, my brand was imperfect best because the speech impediment is imperfect when viewed through a certain lens, but I strive to do my best." And at the time, it was like a huge relief. Finally, to have words to describe what I do, but I didn't realize that it was far more than a branding question. Eventually, I'm sorry, it was far more than a brand. Imperfect best, kind of catchy, kind of keeps you on your toes because they seem like the opposite. What do we do with that? Well, it's enough to make people want to know more, hopefully. But the power of the expression wasn't the brand. I mean, sure, it was some of it, but much more the question, how do I do my imperfect best? And and this is a definition we came up a few years ago, and we thought my coworker Chris and I thought we were going to define what imperfect best means. And I mean this is a fine definition. Even when we try our best, mistakes and imperfect best will happen. When we do our imperfect best, we accept these mistakes as part of the process, leveraging or learning from them and leveraging them where possible. Yeah, it's a fine definition, but it's not the only definition. I ask myself now each and every day, Jason, how can I do my imperfect best? And in tons of different situations, but this question has like extended beyond me. Now I ask each of my podcast guests, what does doing your imperfect best mean to you? And I'll ask you watching, what does doing your imperfect best mean to you? And you know what? Each of my podcast guests has a different answer. But beyond that, you know what? If I ask them that question every day for a year, they would probably have a different answer each day. And if I ask you the question, what does doing your imperfect best mean to you, you will probably have a different answer each day. With these big empowering questions, it's not about finding the right answer. And speaking of commencement address, in school we got conditioned to search for the right answer. And yes, there's a right answer to so many things like What's 2 plus 2? What's the capital of the United States? What's the capital of Germany? What's the capital of Bolivia? There's way answers to all those questions. But so many other questions in life, like how can I do my imperfect best? Or how can I turn my life into a gift? There's no exact right answer. There's no exact right answer. So for the part of us that wants to quickly find a question and quickly answer it, this is can be kind of frustrating because like I'll be answering the question of how do I turn exactly who I am into a gift, and how do I do my imperfect best. I hope to be answering those questions every day for the rest of my life. Yeah, which is definitely not a quick answer. This is the question. Well, how do I do my imperfect best? And the thing about this process I'm talking about is the questions we ask ourselves can change our trajectory in life. Before, when I was asking the disempowering questions about my disability, it was obviously going in a different direction than the questions I'm asking now. Eh, Yes, the questions we ask ourselves can truly change our trajectory. If you are struggling with all this, try asking yourself these questions. What hidden question do I keep answering? When I don't mm, if you're not getting the results you want, if you again and again going to a place that doesn't feel like you want to go, a place where you feel miserable with the answers you're getting, where you don't feel successful, where you feel frustrated, where you feel overwhelmed. What hidden questions are you answering that keeps driving you in that direction towards that experience? And again, this question, like all the others I've been talking about, is not easy to answer, and it's it's most likely not obvious. It's most likely not obvious, hence the term hidden. Yeah, so challenging, and it's not like I've gotten past this question either. Yes, I'm still asking myself hitting questions that are disempowering various various aspects of my life. I've and yeah, sure, I've illuminated some disempowering questions which I've talked about, but I'm sure there's still others. What are they? I don't know yet. I hope to figure more out through conversations, through personal exploration. What I'm trying to say is this is a challenging process. Next, and this is important too, is searching for this answer. Oh, once you find a question that you think might be a hidden question that's sending you in a certain direction, is searching for this answer, for the answer to the question you came up with, taking me in the direction I want to go. And this can be a hard question to answer honestly, because again, even if hidden questions are taking us towards answers we don't want again and again and again, those answers are still familiar. They are still the same old, same old. And there's some comfort in it. Even if it doesn't feel good all the time, we probably experiencing some good times, even when we are answering the painful questions over and over again. Like when I was asking why me, I was still experiencing some good times. Sure, I was. So it can be tempting to kind of cling to answering the disempowering question because it's predictable, even if it's not taking us towards our dreams, even if it's not helping us become as happy as we want to be, even if it's not doesn't seem isn't taking us in the direction of the success we want. But answering this question honestly, if we can take us here. Is there a better question I could be asking? Is there a better question I could be asking? And this is a creative process here, because you get to create the better question. There's no book, no gospel truth on better questions. You have to ask to be a good person or anything. It's about it's about coming up with a question that seems better, and then experimenting with it for a while, trying to like like I experimented with the question of how can I make my disability into a gift, and I happened to look out and like the answers I got, so I kept asking it. But if you create a question you think is better and you start answering it and it's not taking you in the direction you want to go, well, the good thing about it is can always create another better question to ask and experiment with, or 10 other questions to experiment with, and just explore them and see what works, what feels good, what takes you in the direction you want to go. I need to make this big. This is so important. So, 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 but before I get get to that, I shared ideas with you during this imperfect best commencement, and I've been talking for almost 50 minutes now, and in a condensed talk like this, there's a danger that it all sounds easy and sounds simple, and that in one sense it is like that we have disempowering hidden questions we keep asking ourselves about our lives and answering. And ask different, if we create different, more empowering questions and start answering those, and would send us in a different direction. Simple, right? But like it's simple to say, hey, I've been going to San Diego, and so now I realize that, and oh, I've been going towards New York, and oh, I realize that now, and I want to turn and go towards San Diego. Simple to say, right? But what's the next thing that needs to happen? Like if you want to get to San Diego, the next thing is the daily work of going towards San Diego. Day in and day out, working and trying new things. Does this work? Oh, that works good. Does that work? No, that doesn't work. And trying something different again and again and again, and, and practicing and building the muscle memory of going towards metaphorical San Diego and and talking to people and getting the ideas, getting overwhelmed by the ideas, then stepping back and figuring out the ones can incorporate and the ones that make sense. And it's an iterative process day after day, day after day. So I put up this caution. And it says these ideas are about direction change. They are not about a magic solution to all our problems. Once you ask a new question, you still have to do the daily work of living into the answers. And how do I get this as a whole? Put it there so you can see it bigger. The, this idea is as dear to my heart as all of these ideas I've been talking about are important to me because I know they have transformed my life. But I also want to emphasize this idea because I would listen to speaker after speaker throughout the years, and I'd be like, "Well, this thing sounds so simple. Am I too dumb that I didn't get it before, or maybe I would say, oh, if I was going to give these ideas that talking about, I would have done it years ago. So then I would rationalize myself into just continuing to do what I was doing, or or else I would just. It would sound so simple, I would forget about it the next day. But a huge part of how I've gotten to where I am now, to this life I love, to this life where I feel successful, to this life where I feel like I'm making the contribution I want to make, to this life of work that's challenging but so rewarding, to this life where I love my voice and my coordination. How I got here was by fortunately I implemented some concept that resonated with me. I I didn't by any means implement everything everyone has suggested to me, or everything I've heard motivational speakers say. But I found a fraction that stuck with me, and I when I say implemented, it sounds so official. Actually, I practiced it as often as I could, and I did my imperfect best with it, and yes, I I made a lot of mistakes along the way. Just because you're suddenly going in the direction you want to go doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. If you're anything like me, you will. But the part of the beauty of doing our imperfect best is we can learn from the mistakes, the obstacles, the frustration, and keep moving forward. So if something I've said in here resonates with you, or a lot of things resonate with you, and you want to try them out, I urge you to try them out. I urge you to maybe rewatch this video if you're taking notes, or if you took notes, go back to your notes, and if it actually makes sense and sounds like something you want to do, I urge you to do your imperfect best to try it, to really go on a discovery mission and find what questions are disempowering you, and look for creating more empowering questions, and try those out, and then just go for it. And if it works for a time and then you find something else that works better, great. If it keeps working like it has for me, great. If you click on another video after this one that has something that makes more sense to you, and you want to try that, try that. What I'm trying to say is just move and experiment and try new things and see what works, see what feels good, see what moves you in the direction you want to go. I can't imagine spending life stuck where I was. I'm so glad I found a way beyond that I made a direction change. Here's to you, making the direction changes you want in life, if you want to make them, and not only making those direction changes, but going confidently day after day, challenge after challenge, frustration after frustration, sometimes in the direction you want to go. Your life is worth it. Your dreams are worth it. And I tell you all this because you are the best. You are the one and only one of you who ever has been, is now, or ever will be. You can leave a unique mark on the earth. And with that, I close this commencement address, and let's remember, commencement means to begin. After clicking off this video, I, ur- I urge you to go forth with a spirit of beginning the rest of your life, commencing your best days, going forth to discover new things about yourself in the world. You are the best. Thanks for being you. Thanks for listening and tune in to another episode of Ugly Awesome Podcast next week. Or like I like to say, if you're watching this a 1,000 years from now, you'll probably have to watch reruns. Anyway, next week I'll have a new guest. Take care and remember to smile. Nope, sorry, that didn't do it. Okay. Remember how this works, Jason. Okay. Smile.